Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at working with our race timer feature found in our Link G5 and G4X programming. Now, a race timer is a very useful tuning tool for doing something like boost control tuning, or even our power management feature, which we're going to take a look at heavily in the next tutorial. The race timer can be used for logging purposes, but the primary intended use is going to be a timer based on when you launch your vehicle and you're going down the drag strip. We're going to take a look at how we can implement this feature and turn it on and make sure it works in our software, and then talk about a couple different applications that I've used successfully with the race timer feature. Now, because the Link is incredibly flexible in terms of the programming, we know we can use almost any runtime value into creating a custom table in the software here. You can use runtime and repurpose it for some kind of a custom strategy. Let's take a look at this real quick of where we can find our race timer feature to turn it on, and then talk about setting it up, and then talk about where we can actually use it in the most successful manner in the software. Okay, so we're going to move from our fuel page, and we're going to jump across into a page labeled Power Management. This is a feature we're going to, again, look at in the next tutorial. This is more of a drag race centric type of feature. It's used to control, for traction purposes, control the engine acceleration rate. But the race timer is tied into that, and I have it set up in that page because that's usually where you're going to heavily use the race timer. So what we're going to do is go to Layout and then jump all the way down here to Power Management page. Let's click on this. Now, in the Power Management, we're not going to turn Power Management on or talk about any of the Power Management features or functions in this tutorial. We're just setting up and working with our race timer, which is found right here in this window. Let's go to the race timer mode, and let's go from off. We have two options here for the race timer. This is how we want the timer to start. So whether it's going to be a press of a switch or release of a switch. You can use either. What I think is the most logical here is release of switch. Typically, with a drag race vehicle, rear-wheel drive vehicle, you're going to have a button, a momentary button, found on the steering wheel that you'll push and hold when you want to activate something like the launch control and also start the race timer. So as soon as you let the button go, launch control will turn off. And if we set it here of release of switch, that'll start our race timer counting up from 0 to whatever the amount we want it to count up to in terms of seconds. I'm going to go and choose release of switch here as my option and click OK here. Now we can find we have a whole bunch of different parameters to set up in our window here. Let's talk about our activation input. We primarily use a digital input for a momentary button. Now you can use analog inputs, but let's go here. I've set mine up to a digital 3, so we're going to select this option. If we go down here, we do have some other options here. There are auxiliaries, virtuals, we have injectors that we can use for the inputs, ignition. Again, we have a lot of the ignition outputs. We have a lot of different options here. If you have a CAN keypad, you could assign this. But again, I like to assign this to a momentary button that's found on my steering wheel. So that's exactly how I have it in my application right here. So I'm going to use digital 3. That's where I've wired my momentary button to. One leg of my button is going to go to chassis ground. The other leg of my button is going to go to my digital input 3 pin on my G5. So I'm going to be grounding the pin when I push the button. I have to be noting that because not only do we have to know the input, but how we have the state here, which we're going to find in a second for signing this. We can see here the pull-up resistor, if I'm sending a ground input to my pin, should be left on in the activation state low. If I've wired 12 volt into my momentary button, so 12 volt goes in, the out from the button is going to go to the digital 3 input pin. That's going to be sending 12 volt to the pin. In that situation, we would have our pull-up resistor set to off and our activation state set to high. So it's just opposite in terms of the programming logic. So Link understands that it's looking for a 12 volt input rather than a ground input to the pin. Doesn't matter how you wire it. I've wired mine low side and I've set my activation state low and set my pull-up resistor on. So let's go ahead and click cancel there. Now what we can do just to test to make sure this works, if we go to tuning here and we go to runtime values and we go to digital, we can see the digital 3 assigned to race timer. Right now it's set to inactive. If I go on my steering wheel and click the momentary button, we're going to see that it goes active. And if I let go of the button, it's going to go inactive. Now, what we'll find, based on the other programming conditions that we've set here, the race timer should start as soon as I release the button. And if I push the button again, it'll reset the timer back to 0. We can take a look here in our runtime value as race timer is showing seconds right here, we can see it's counted up to approximately 15 seconds. What I'll do is push the button again. Notice the button goes active. We can see here, based on our other programming conditions, which we're going to just touch on here in a second, it's going to start off at 0 seconds. As soon as I release the button, it's going to count up, and it's going to count up to a total max time of 15 seconds. Now, if you're using this for a drag vehicle, 15 seconds is more than enough to complete a drag pass, which is why we have it set here for 15 seconds. You could even do 10 seconds, but 15 is safe. I'll keep it at 15. So I'm going to let go of the button, and notice the race time is going to start. So go ahead, let go. And this would be simulating me letting go of the button and launching the car off the line. It's going to go ahead and count up in the race time as I'm accelerating down the drag strip, and it's going to go all the way out to 15 seconds and then stop. At any point in time, if I push the button, it's going to reset itself back to 0. That can be extremely problematic, and it may be something that could cost us a run if we accidentally hit the button. So definitely put the momentary button somewhere that you're not going to accidentally hit it. But we can see here, I let it go, it does that reset option. Pretty simple. So I push it, resets it, let it go, starts the count up. Okay, let's go ahead and close our runtime value window. So there's a pause input and a
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.